Good morning again, Green Spring. Today we have Libby Haynes with us for our Who's Who program. And you may have seen her around the campus. She's closely associated with our American Legion Post 123, and she was its adjutant since it became Post 123 here in Green Spring. She's no longer the adjutant, but she's still very actively involved as a membership chairman. You may have seen her also on a flag ceremony when we've had flag ceremonies here at Green Spring. We don't have them too often, but she was frequently in the flag ceremony. And she received a prestigious award, a gold award, from the Civil Air Patrol on 8 October this year for her service in World War II, and we'll talk a little bit about that during the program. So let's find out a little bit more about Elizabeth, or as she likes to be called, Libby Haynes. Welcome, Libby. It's certainly nice to have you on this program.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Would you tell us a little bit about your children, where they live and what they do?
Well, there are four. I have a son and three daughters. My son, William, is a professor of marine engineering at the Massachusetts Maritime Academy and chief engineer on their school ship. And I love having him visit because he can fix anything.
That's good. I suspect he takes that after you, too. I bet you can fix almost anything.
Well, William fixes my computer over the telephone from his home.
Oh, that's okay.
And that's very nice to have someone you trust get into your hard drive.
Yep.
So I'm always happy when he and his wife can visit, and they have two sons, both studying engineering.
Oh, good.
And the older one graduated from Massachusetts College of Art and is working at the Kittery Naval Shipyard as a welder. But that's his dream job. But actually his art degree was in architectural engineering.
Ah, okay.
So his starting job...
But he's not an architect. You said he was a...
No.
I'm sorry.
The son, the older son. Then the second daughter lives in Fairfax City, so she's the one that bails me out of Fairfax Hospital every once in a while.
Okay.
And she has 4 children. And her husband retired from the Army 10 years ago. He spent 28 years at Fort Myer in the Army Fife and Drum Corps.
Oh, is that right? Great.
And he was able to bring the bugler to our CAP ceremony. And the middle daughter is Esther, who has her master's in education, but she's actually mostly teaching music and doing gigs. And she was the one who sang "He Wears a Pair of Silver Wings" at that ceremony. And she does have singing gigs around in the neighborhood. Just look up Esther Haynes on Google and you'll find out what she's up to.
Oh, okay.
And the youngest is Mary. She's married with 3 children, and she's a chief nurse at University of Virginia Hospital. Oh. And she's come when I've needed a nurse, too.
Great. So
that's very nice.
Well, you certainly have a nice family, one that's very active and doing lots of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
They're all good citizens.
Yeah, that's right. What about your early life? Tell us about your parents, your siblings, and where you grew up.
I was born in Memphis, but my father was soon transferred to New Orleans he was an agricultural economist working for a cotton farmers organization.
Oh, okay.
And we lived in New Orleans from the time I was 5 until I was 10. And then
So you should have some Cajun drawl or something like that, shouldn't you?
Well, they were from Minnesota and Wisconsin.
All right.
So I was kind of mixed.
Yeah.
In 1936, my father received a telegram from Secretary Morgenthau inviting him to come to work for the Treasury Department.
Oh.
So we moved to the Washington area. I was 10 at the time, and have lived in this area ever since. My husband was from a farm in central Tennessee.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, now you have a brother, Ed.
Ed was 5 years younger than I. He died 3 years ago. And he was very sharp in mathematics and helped me very much, pushed me through college algebra when he was 13.
And I knew Ed when he was a math instructor at West Point. We were instructors at the same time. Well, we coincided for a year. So I knew Ed. And when I guess when I first met Libby and she realized I was from West Point, she asked if I knew Ed, and I remember Ed Daggett. So he was very smart too.
Much more smarter than I.
I don't know about that, Libby.
He always could beat me at chess.
He could beat you at chess, huh?
Invariably.
I see. Okay. Well, maybe he is. Well, there's another aspect of growing up in LA. What kind of a house did you have?
It actually was one of these houses by mail from Sears.
Yeah. Sears and Roebuck House.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
At 5710 Broad Branch Road in Northwest Washington, directly across the street from Lafayette School.
Yeah. So the Sears Roebuck House, it cost about...
This model, I think, cost $9,600.
$9,600? That was a very expensive Sears house.
But I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Well, the point is, Sears houses cost from about $1,000 to maybe $9,000 then. When you ordered them from the catalog.
Yeah, I think their least expensive one was under $1,000.
Yeah, I think so. And they're still around, aren't they?
Oh yes, they were very sturdy, well-built houses.
Yeah. Have you seen that house since?
Actually, yes. I was driving home from Baltimore with one of my daughters and said, should we go through Washington and I'll show you where I used to live. And when we got there in the evening, it was still bright daylight, there were two men standing out in front of it. One of them had blueprints under his arm. And when their conversation broke up, I walked over and turned out it was the one that was left was the owner of the house who had just bought it and was thinking of modernizing it. Oh. So he took me through and we had a nice chat, and I have not been back since it was finished.
Yeah. Well, good. All right. Now, you became interested in flying very early in life.
When we were still in New Orleans, my father took me to an open house at Lakefront Airport on Lake Pontchartrain.
How old were you?
Probably about 7.
7, yeah, okay. And so you've been interested in flying ever since you were 7 years old. and you still like to talk about flying, don't you?
Well, compared to some of the gentlemen here, my experience was very sparse.
Well, that may be true, but you know, as we talk about your flying, I think your experience at that age was kind of unique. I don't think there were very many young women who were flying like you did, but we'll get into that a little later.
Okay.
Let's talk first about your elementary or high school. Did you have any special things about elementary school or high school?
Well, from our conversation, you and I shared an experience. We both heard Roosevelt's Day of Infamy speech live.
Yes, right, we did.
On the radio.
Yep.
I was actually in school, and the principal's voice came over the loudspeaker saying that the president was about to address Congress on the 8th of December, 41, and we would listen. And we did, and it was a very impressive experience to remember hearing that speech as it was given.
You were in middle school or junior?
9th grade.
9th grade. Well, that's high school then, isn't it? Yeah, that's high school.
Well, junior high at that time.
Okay. All right, well, what about some of the classes? You enjoyed PE, right?
Not at all.
I see.
My vision was very distorted, and my eyes did not work together.
Now, wait a minute. You have poor vision and you were flying? Well, not then, but
Well,
you
corrected by glasses.
Yeah.
But I'd been wearing glasses since 4th grade.
Okay.
And one eye the eyes did not work together so that my brain would blank out one. I would see with one or the other, and they would jump from one to the other. But when I got into college, there was a woman working with the George Washington University Hospital who had thought of a specialty which she called orthoptic vision,
Yeah.
or she called herself an orthoptic technician, and she taught my eyes to work together by using prisms and mainly she gave me a pair of glasses that had no lens on one side and a red celluloid lens on the other, so I could tell which eye was working at a time by the change of color.
My oldest daughter had what we call lazy eye.
That's different.
That's different, okay.
That's where the muscle is too
It's
strong.
not following, yeah.
But this was within the lenses themselves.
Oh, okay. Okay, that is different.
And so she got me straightened out after exercises and practices with prism. And back at home, I would put a candle on the buffet and then back away from it until I lost the two together. And when I got 20 feet across, she gave me a prism to make it more difficult.
Yeah.
But finally, the muscles were trained to work together.
Okay, now...
So that had been fixed, and I was always wearing glasses for astigmatism.
I brought up the PE because you didn't like it, and you didn't want to be in there, and you couldn't be in the band because you didn't play anything. So what did you do?
Well, the high school had the George Washington High School in Alexandria. This is the one that you see from the Braddock Road Metro station.
So you've moved then from Northwest Washington
Yes,
down to Alexandria?
just before Pearl Harbor, or just after. I stayed with some friends of my father's to graduate from junior high in February of '42, but they had already moved into the house in Alexandria. I joined the high school cadet corps, which, I should have brought my yearbook that had some pictures.
That's all right. We've got a table full.
So it turned out it was a junior ROTC program, but it was military.
Now, you qualified with a 1903 Springfield rifle at that time.
Yes, we had a rifle range right in the basement of the high school.
And, you know, I've never fired in 1903, but I fired the M1, and I suspect it has about the same kick as a 1903.
These were fitted with a .22 caliber barrel.
Oh, okay.
So
that made a big difference.
yeah, I don't remember a bad kick.
Yeah, and 22 doesn't have much of it. But an 03 has a kick, and I just wondered about a young lady in high school firing an 03. Okay. All right, well, you were CAP members. What does CAP stand for?
Civil Air Patrol.
Civil Air Patrol. And you were a member starting in high school?
I don't remember at all how I learned of the CAP, but they met every Wednesday night at Central High School, which has been renamed Cardozo, at 13th and Clifton Streets Northwest, and went to their meetings. They had a very structured program in which we practiced close order drill on the football field, and then we went into the building for classes, ground school classes. Had very good training in ground school.
Ground school, what do you mean?
Theory of aeronautics, engine mechanics. I learned to send and receive Morse code at 30 words a minute, and have never used that skill. Don't even remember the alphabet.
But you remember SOS, huh? Was it dot, 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 dash, 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 dot, dot, dot? Okay.
Precisely.
Okay, good. All right, well...
I go on and say that the senior officers of the CAP own their own planes. It's an entirely voluntary organization, still is. And if we went out to Congressional Airport on a Saturday, they'd take us flying in their little...
So what other, did you get some flying experience? flying with them and searching for things, or? Did
Oh, not as a cadet, no.
No.
No, those are just orientation flights.
So after cadet, you became then a member of the CA?
Civil, yes, as a senior member.
Yeah, when did that happen? Still in high school?
Oh, no,
Later on?
later. Actually, while I was in the Air Force.
Oh, okay. Well, the award that you received was for
Service during World War II.
World War II, and that was really when you were a cadet.
Yes,
in
high
Civil
school
Air
age.
Patrol. Okay, tell us a little bit about the award. You just received it a short time ago.
President Obama presented a gold medal. Mine is not gold.
Well,
But this is the same size, certainly not the weight of a gold medal,
yeah.
to the Civil Air Patrol as an organization 2 years ago
Oh, okay.
for service during World War II.
Hold up the medal. There you go. Get it on three.
And I had gone to the Twilight Tattoo at Fort Myer in late July, and there was a group of CAP cadets sitting in the bleachers, and in what looked to me like Air Force uniform, and they looked far too young to be enlisted people, age 13 to 18, or, high school age. So when the program was over and the announcer invited people to come down and talk to the soldiers, I walked over and spoke to their officer and mentioned that I'd been a CAP cadet, and she got all excited about this. And this resulted in this ceremony to present the replica medal.
Okay.
It just went.
So the picture I'm holding is a picture of the people in the ceremony.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we can't see that on the monitor.
No. Okay.
Should he hold?
Is
Well, you had your you went from high school graduation directly into the Cadet Nurse Corps,
that's right.
and you graduated in '44. So you went into the Cadet Nurse Corps at the Richmond Hospital.
Yes, Stewart Circle Hospital in Richmond.
Would you tell us a little bit about Cadet Nurse Corps? Just
At the beginning of World War II, the government realized that there would be a tremendous shortage of nurses for the Army and Navy during the war, and they designed, I think it was Edith Norse Rogers that designed this program to request that civilian schools of nursing adapt their programs to graduate nurses in 2.5 years instead of 3, and that the government would pay the tuition for the school, and the candidates would be sworn to serve in the Army or Navy, to accept a commission when they graduated. And that program trained 180,000 nurses. Just about every school of nursing in the United States cooperated with it. And when the war ended, I had been there, well, a little over a year and a half, and we were relieved from our obligation to serve in the military and could resign without prejudice. And I loved the academic work, the anatomy and physiology, pharmacology, history of nursing, and all the academic classes. But I realized that I was not cut out for bedside nursing. So I resigned and went home and started at George Washington University.
well, did you do any flying while you were down at Richmond?
Yes. Whenever I had the time and the weather was.
When did you first go up in a plane? Do you remember?
Probably as a CAP cadet.
CAP cadet? How about the $10 birthday gift?
That was a little later.
That's later?
That was the June that I graduated from high school at age 17. It was my 17th birthday. And it had never been the practice in my family to give money as a gift. My mother thought that was crass.
Yeah.
But we got birthday presents and Christmas presents. And for my 17th birthday, she gave me a card with a $10 bill in it. And the card, she said in the card, maybe there is something you would like for your birthday that I can't buy for you. So the following Saturday was a beautiful June day. I told her that I was going to go out and spend my $10 and would be back for supper. So off I went on the bus from Alexandria to 12th and Penn, where the AB&W buses ended. Got on the streetcar, went out Wisconsin Avenue to Tenley Circle, where the streetcars ended, and got on the WM&A bus that went on out Wisconsin Avenue to Congressional Field between North Bethesda and Rockville, and now Congressional Plaza Mall, and had a flying lesson. I spent $6 to rent a Piper Cub J3 for an hour, $3 for an instructor, and $1 for a logbook. Still have the logbook, listing all the flights that I'd taken.
Right. Okay.
Well, I guess I'm back up here, and anyway, there's N40014, a whole page of it.
So your first flight's in there too. Well, let's not turn to it, but go ahead. So you got your first flight with your $10 birthday present.
Right. I had some pocket money from babysitting.
Okay. Now, when you're down in Richmond, you get to you.
So I would go out to Hermitage Field and
Yeah.
would fly with an instructor named Davy Jones.
Yeah, we're down to 5 minutes.
Oh,
all right.
my.
Now, then you came back. You flew Piper Cubs out of Bailey's Crossroads Airport too.
Uh-huh.
And you decided to go to OCS in March of 1951.
I was accepted into the class beginning in March of 51.
Yeah.
I had gone through George Washington University in night school and was working for the D.C. government at the time.
But you wanted to be in the Air Force. You were commissioned in 51.
It was a compulsion.
I see.
I couldn't deny it.
Well, and you were assigned to Kelly Air Force Base in San Antonio. Did you have any great experience flying while you were in Kelly?
Oh yes, yes indeed. Lots of the Air Force pilots would take me up and let me fly.
So you even had a T-33 flight where you got some aerobatics in. Well, you came back to Andrews, where you were assigned to Andrews, and you bought a plane.
I bought the...
Now, you had how many hours of flying when you bought this plane?
I'd have to look it up in the book.
Okay, well, probably not very many.
Not very many.
Yeah, maybe 50?
Oh, no,
30.
probably less than 20.
Less than 20, and you bought this airplane. Now, this airplane is a PT-23. It has 220 horsepower.
Right.
It flies at about 180 miles an hour.
Right.
It's a government surplus plane. It cost you how much?
$500.
$500 for two-seater, 220 horsepower, flying 180 miles an hour. Isn't that incredible?
But I'd like to tell the people, the audience, that it's not a small airplane. I figured that if I put the wingtip on my living room window, the engine would be in the hall wall, and it would extend about 15 feet into the apartment across the hall.
It isn't a small plane, but it's a beautiful plane, really. You know?
It is.
It really is a beautiful.
It had plenty of power, stressed for acrobatics. I had a lot of fun with that.
Now you've got the picture. Now you look at Libby over there in her Air Force uniform. I presume that's the
That's an officer cadet.
We're down to 2 minutes. We haven't even got you married, Libby.
Well,
all right.
Really quick, I was sent to MIT to study meteorology. I was assigned to Torbay, RCAF station in Newfoundland, and I met my husband when he was stationed at Andrews, and he came in for a forecast to Greenland. So I briefed him on the weather to Greenland and signed his clearance, and he came back. So the fourth time I saw him, we were engaged.
Okay.
I didn't tell my daughters.
You didn't tell them that, but that was over a period of time, though.
Yeah, over about 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, my daughter got engaged about the 5th or 6th day after she met. So, you know. All right, you were married at your home in Alexandria, and William P., which is Dexter. And
Yep.
Let's get a picture of him here.
Yeah.
No, it's right here.
That's me. There's,
So here's a picture of her husband.
he was a lovely
Can you
gentleman.
come in on that?
He passed away 25 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a picture of Dexter.
Very, very happy.
We're off of it, all right. So in 65 he retired. Well, no, let's go back. Just you left the Air Force when you became pregnant,
Right.
and you were stationed at Dover, Delaware.
He was.
He was, and so you were there too.
Yes.
That's all right. Now you've had 4 children, and you go back to work at the Marine Fishing Service in Washington D.C. And you finally wind up as a GS-13 or in oceanography, which is somewhat associated, I guess, with meteorology. And I'm sure meteorology got you into it. You retired from that, and you got a BS in oceanography.
Yes.
You retired in '88 after 20 years of service, and now you're in Green Spring. And why Green Spring? We got to go fast.
I was rattling around in a 6-bedroom house that I couldn't afford and couldn't care for.
Yeah.
And at the time my husband passed away, there was nothing available like this except nursing homes.
Yeah.
So in 2003 or 2, I started looking at some of these retirement communities, and Green Spring was far and away the best of all that I visited. And I think I visited 17 of them.
Oh boy. So you liked us best.
Yes, and I tell people that joining the Air Force was the best decision I ever made in my life, and coming to Green Spring was the second best.
Great. And in your activities here, you're American Legion, and now you have a couple of other activities too, right?
Well, I've served on the Village Church Council and as president of the Women in Military Service Club, which is now defunct.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yes. Jean Jennings was the guiding light of that, and she can't do it. The Aero Club, I loved that. I served as
Sure.
president of that for 1 year. And that's crashed. And the Legion, I joined the Legion right after my husband died, so I've been a member for 25 years now.
Yeah. All right. Well, Libby, thank you very much for being on Who's Who. I'm sorry we had to rush your later life.
Well, I was
but
talking
you
too
know,
much. I usually do.
I was so entranced with your earlier life that it was really great. So thank you very much.